Welcome to this episode of the Greater Phoenix Chambers podcast, Let's Talk Business Phoenix, with your host, me, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. In each episode, we're going to tackle important issues and subjects affecting businesses, our community, and the state today. Through relevant, timely topics, this podcast serves as the business community's voice with a mission of championing business growth, identifying problems that restrict economic development, and convening community leaders to move Phoenix forward.
Let's Talk Business Phoenix was produced in partnership with Ideas Collide, an agency offering a full suite of custom marketing solutions for your brand's unique challenges. With the courage to innovate, the vision to drive results, and the passion to deliver beautifully designed campaigns. Serving local, regional, and global client partners since 2005. Make a connection and learn how you can invent, integrate, and drive impact at ideascollide.com.
Well, welcome back to the podcast. We are honored today to talk to Matt Clyde, who's the president and founder of Ideas Collide, and also our benefactor for these beautiful studios that we're in. They've been gracious enough to allow us to use this space and their team. So when we sound good and we look good, it's because of the Ideas Collide team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with us.
Excited to sit down with you.
Well,
I've watched a lot of these from my office, so it's exciting to be in the hot seat.
Well, it'll be a lot of fun, I promise. And we always like to start with a little bit about you, maybe kind of some background, and then something about you that we wouldn't find on your bio.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, founder of Ideas Collide. We've been doing this. I don't know if you saw it when you walked in, but today is our 18th official anniversary. Happy birthday. 18 years ago, we kicked this thing off. We had a cake in there, so maybe noticed it when you came in. But
on the way out,
we'll grab a slice for you. So 18 years doing this. Prior to that, worked in a lot of big corporate entities. Worked for America West Airlines for a while. Was part of their brand and team, and did that. Have worked in New York ad agencies. I've had opportunity to work alongside some pretty famous authors and celebrity chefs I like to talk about. So I've worked with Jeffrey Zakarian, who's a top chef, and I've worked with Stephen R. Covey and did some ghostwriting for Stephen R. Covey. So some things that aren't on the bio, but are fun. And I think at the core of all of this and the journey, and also not on the bio, is I come from a construction family. So I have a big passion for the construction industry, but it also means in my veins and in my heart, I love to build things. So I love to create things, and have been doing that from a very young age. And so starting this was one of those things. I was always dreaming up something that I wanted to build. And so building a company, a team, something important in the community was really important to me and what we've built here.
Well, we're glad you're here. And I think that's this background of your family in construction made you a natural pick to also do all the work for us on the Build Your Future initiative.
That's why I'm very committed and connected to that, and very important for Arizona and for the trade and the industry as a whole across the United States.
You bet. Absolutely. Well, so you mentioned Jeffrey Zakarian. Are you a chef?
I can cook a few things.
What's your specialty?
I do a lot of spaghetti, do a lot of grilling.
Oh, okay.
A few pastas and things like that. I make great eggs. I like
is
to
that
make,
right?
Yeah, I make a good breakfast. So
okay.
So Saturdays I try and do like bacon and eggs and the whole spread for the family, the kids. So
you're popular on Saturday.
Yeah, it's about it. The rest of the time, the rest of the family got, the rest of my kids got the good culinary skills. They're really good artists of that, but that didn't come my way.
Well, Saturday's good. We'll take it. So I think it's appropriate that we're here on the 18th birthday, and I think it'd be interesting to really know a little bit more about how you started Ideas Collide and the philosophy. And I want to talk about this in a minute, but there's in my mind, at least from an outside perspective, there's a very intentional side of this business that has to do with giving back. And it seems like that permeates the organization and the culture. But tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, did a lot of corporate stints, and one of those was with Franklin Covey. We got to go into a lot of organizations, and we were in the marketing innovation team, and we would observe and work with really big companies. So worked with Starbucks and the Mayo Health Clinic and Ritz-Carlton, and would work with their learning and development teams to observe what was going on in their organizations and extract the best practices, and then find the gaps and identify the better solutions that could be developed and refined in better collaboration or in workforce development and talent development. So we would observe all of this and then create programs and marketing programs around what we were observing. So I did a lot of observation and consulting at the beginning of my career, and I think that in my back of my mind, I started to build this list and of what best companies look like and what great cultures look like, and you learn a lot from those that maybe too aren't so great. And so in the corporate world, I think we've all had moments where it hasn't been the best experience. I did some time and worked in advertising in New York and on Madison Avenue.
So Mad Men?
Yes, very not the Mad Men of the 60s, right. But this was like the Mad Men of the early 2000s. So it was the .com era.
Sure.
So a lot of hype, maybe not a lot of foundation to the hype, but learned how to be very, very scrappy and adaptive and agile in that time. But learned too that, okay, these are things I want to do differently if I ever get the opportunity. And so that kept mounting and building this list until finally I was at this conference, Fast Company conference, early 2000 in San Diego, and saw this clipping, this thing that was said, you can't love your life if you don't love your work. And I started to carry that around with me of like, this is kind of how I want to, operate in my life and in my workplace. And so that started to like wear on me. And I'm like, I think I can do this better. And I think I wanted to find a way to do it better. So I decided to take this leap and go and build this business based on that whole philosophy. And tied to that was like to have true intent in giving, like you talked about. So in our first blueprint of this company, one of the things we wrote down first was authentic giving. So, every company can write a check, and that's important and needed. But how do you really get involved? How do you get really invested? How do you roll up your sleeves and listen and go, okay, what can we really do to make impact? Sometimes it's not in what you write in terms of money, but more in listening or recruiting or giving volunteer time. And so that was all part of what you call our charter at the beginning, is like, we're going to be very giving in intent. And so the purpose of the organization from day one was, let's give what we can to our clients and give them, great work and innovative work. Let's give to our team that sense of purpose and giving back and building a career here and opportunities here. And if this really works well together, we can then give back to the community and influence the community in a meaningful way. So we call it our trifecta of giving. Mm-hmm. If each one of those things are operating well, they kind of feed each other. And so that's the whole purpose intent of the organization and how we operate.
Well, and speaking for the chamber, now probably about 4 or 5 years ago, you all did a very deep dive with us on our brand, yeah, and everything associated with that. And today, we're still living that, and it's still having an impact. You look at our stuff now, and it looks so good and so clean, and it reflects who we are. So I think the idea that it is intentional, and certainly dollars are important, but that work it just really has an impact. It resonates today.
It's one of our favorite projects that we've done. I mean, it was great to work alongside your team, listen to fellow board members, listen to the business community. Like, what do we want this organization to look and feel like going forward, and how do we take not just the organization, the people and the talent, but how do we take the vision of this organization, the values of this organization, and turn that into a visual identity? And I think we did that really in a compelling way when you look at the logo and what it means now.
It's true. I mean, the teal Phoenix felt like something we borrowed from the 80s, yeah, and it wasn't us. And now it feels like us. So thank you.
Yeah.
So thinking about brand, brand is so important, and you talk about that a lot, but it almost seems like it's overused. I hear teenagers talking about their brand now. Tell us a little bit about brand and how it should be applied and why it's important.
Well, anybody can create a brand today. I mean, we own that power in our hand. There's not a lot of barriers to creating brand and telling your story. And so that's why I think it is so important, is to really know and hone in on that, because everybody can create that personal brand or in a larger entity or in a nonprofit. It's really what you're known for. It's what you are associated with, and it's what you hope and are achieving to be. So it's all of that is encompassing in your brand. And so with also in a world and media universe where there's so much competition and noise, and everything's now down to seconds of material and content that you quickly fly through on your screens. You have to have what I think is the authentic brand, and that's really where we try to hone in on. I think what we tried to do with the chamber is that authenticity. What is truly at the heart of your organization, and how do you live that, and how do you operate in that realm to be authentic, real, and connected. And that's really where some of the best brands and brands that are growing and excelling really have that at the heart and the core, is that authenticity, knowing who they are, their purpose, and then actively living it and emulating it. So it doesn't feel contrived, doesn't feel staged, and it can really endure long term, and the test of disruption and change and everything. It's still foundational to what your organization is about.
Well, and I think when I hear you say authentic, we've all seen these brands that it seems like it's sort of being forced, and it's kind of cringeworthy sometimes.
Yes.
Thinking about that, would it be fair to say that if we aren't proactive and thoughtful and authentic with our brand, someone else will create our brand for us, or at least establish what that is?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be out there. Everybody can have a platform now, like we talked about. Everybody's going to have an opinion, and there's many voices out there. So we often like to say that, someone's always going to be talking about your brand. You can be part of the conversation, or influencing the conversation, or making sure your story is being told authentically, or you can let someone else tell it for you. And so we can't control a lot around there outside a lot of those third-party channels and forums that may come up about our brands, but you can influence the conversation of what you say is, this is our story, this is our message, and this is true to who we are. And then often on our work, we did this with you, and we call them proof points. What are the proof points? Even if you're truly saying we're about innovation, or we're about connection, or we're about whatever it is that you're defining that is the essence of your brand, what really backs that up? What really establishes that? And what are the proof points, whether it's from your customers, your guests, whether it's from your members, or through your actions? What are you doing actively to prove that? And that's why that ongoing effort is why it's so important to tie that back to the core, is like showing, okay, this is how we activated our brand right now. This is how we're putting this forward. Here are the proof points to back that up.
Yeah, it's true. It's not a one and done. And I guess that brings me to the next point. This morning at our executive committee meeting, there was a discussion about the economy. And certainly with COVID, we saw an economy that we couldn't imagine, correct? I mean, everything sort of stopped. Then a bunch of money got pushed into the economy. We now have inflation, but business is good, but we hear there might be a recession. And the point that was made today is that there's nobody that's leading a company today that's had to lead through inflation. I mean, that was the Jimmy Carter years.
Yeah.
So you have business leaders who are trying to figure this out, and they might be thinking, well, do we really need to be thinking about brand or what we're spending on brand and how we do brand right now, because things are so uncertain? I need to sort of retrench. What do you say to a business leader that brings that concern to you?
I think having a brand presence is really important, because that's the time to get your message out there. That's the time where you might have to, work a little bit harder to get that customer or to get your business case out there. So even if it's a small investment, even if it's like, hey, we're gonna have to tighten our belts, but we're gonna do this internally. We're gonna put forward this effort. I think more than ever in the moments of when things might be a little bit more scarce, prices might be a little bit higher. I think you gotta put your message, your story, your aspect of why you should come and service and be part of a brand or attract customers more than ever. So I think it's not a time to retreat. It's actually a time to prepare and advocate.
Because you're right. When these things happen, the natural reaction is batten down the hatches, pull everything back.
Yes.
And it's antithetical, right, to say spend money. But I also would imagine if you're able to do that and retain, that once we come out, and this looks like it's going to be very short, hopefully, that you're going to be in a much better position also on an expansion mode.
Yeah, we often refer to it as pivoting with intention, pivot with purpose. And there's no business entity out there in today's marketplace where you're not constantly have to rethink your plan. You map out a plan, you map out a strategy, you build that 5-year vision, and then there's the everyday aspect. And in that everyday aspect, what are you intentionally doing to grow through brand, through marketing, through attraction? All those things have to come into play, and you have to pivot with that purpose and intention on an ongoing basis.
I'd like to pivot a little bit, speaking of pivots, to culture. You talk a lot about culture, and I think one of the best examples that I've seen is we actually did a delegation trip to Southwest Airlines, and we all know what it's like to fly their airline, right? It's just that great culture, and I wondered, what's it going to be like in a corporate headquarters? Will it be the same? Probably not. But you get there, and it actually is. Same thing here when you come to these offices. You're out there, you talk a lot about culture, and you kind of wonder, well, how's it going to be at Ideas Clyde? Well, that culture is here. But obviously, that is not something you can just say or wish for. You actually have to make it happen. How do you go about that? How do you get to that culture where people walk in and say, I want to have that?
I think it comes down to any great company has a great culture. I think the core of it is the time. It takes an investment of time. It's not something you can put on the shelf. It's not like, okay, this is our culture, and you put it there and then you just, okay, that's it. It's active and happening. So it's a living, breathing entity every day, and something you have to give extra time to. I mean, leaders of all different types of leaders, packed calendars, agendas, but sometimes it's just the simple of like taking a minute and going, hey, how are things going? And that's hard to do, especially in a current pace environment right now. Someone the other day pulled me aside because I was running from meeting to meeting and we're about to run out to my car, and someone was like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks. And it was like a good moment to be like, thank you for stopping and saying something. Like I haven't had a chance. So let's find time to catch up when we can do that. But your people call you out on it too if you're not living it. And I think that's part of how we operate here is sometimes when people feel like, hey, I'm not feeling that culture, and it's because we all get busy or we get sidetracked. It's that living, breathing thing that you always have to invest in. So that's something that we've really made intentional, purposeful is the time investment. And the other side of it is what we often tell our team is the culture does not reside with one person. It's not just with me as the founder of the company or our executive team. It happens by everybody being vested. And that means everybody has to show up with what culture means to them, and it creates an abundance of conversations around that. And everybody working towards the same goal and the same plan as a business, but people also bringing their personality to work and their what they're interested in, so that everybody has to contribute to it. It just can't come from one entity. It has to come from everybody actively participating and being connected with intention. And that's been another key part of how we've built that over the years, and doesn't stop. That doesn't stop. It's always going. It
is. And I think, you've established it here. And I think you talked about is how to make sure you keep that. What about the business owner that they get a pretty good sense that the culture is not great at their shop and they want to do something about it, but they don't know where to start? What would you suggest? What are 2 or 3 things that they could start doing today that would have an impact on culture?
Talk to your team, sit down, be open forum, or we've done it where we do these one-on-ones, or we do bring in groups of teams, and they can just get feedback and ideas, and start to build consensus of what do people care about? What do we care? How does it tie to the business, and what do we care about, and what are we going to do? And take one of those things. You can't take everything. You're going to hear, we're a 85 plus organization. That's a lot of voices at the table. So we try and give everybody a voice and opportunity, and then you have to elect and choose, okay, what is the one that's going to have the most impact? And so that would probably be the next step, is listening, doing surveys, things like that, and then picking one thing that you feel like will really, take and make a turn or make a measure change, and putting that into action, and then living it. You can't say we're going to do this and then it starts to slide, and then people don't get, the trust erodes, or they feel like, hey, this, they're not really committed to this. This is just, talk. And so you got to really go, if I'm going to do this, I'm in to do, and it might just be that one thing, just do that one thing and do it really well. Because that can slowly turn, and then that starts to create what creates what I call the culture halo. Because then you're going to inspire a few more people, and then they're going to get more bought into whatever it is that you're doing, and then you can take on that next thing, and then it slowly it creates a halo across the team. And so focus on that one thing and build from there.
Well, and I think what you said is interesting. It's not enough just to listen. It's important. But if you just listen and then that's it, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And I do think it's hard to maintain. You might say, okay, we're going to do something, and then 6 months down the line, it's not happening anymore. And I think it probably would be detrimental at that point.
And that's when you be authentic and real too, and be like, hey, this wasn't working. Or maybe I wasn't committed to it. So now we got to rethink. We got to rehuddle. Got to rethink what that is and what we're going to do next.
So as the basically president here, the founder, it sounds like you have to be a little vulnerable.
Oh, absolutely.
With your people. That's tough to do.
It's hard, but I think it's very true to what I think our workforce now expects more and more of that. Of if you're going to be authentic, it means sometimes you're going to be vulnerable. Or sometimes like, hey, we were wrong here, or hey, I missed that mark, but let's work it out and figure it out together. And it's not always easy to do that when you're in the leadership seat, and sometimes you have to swallow that pride, but I think people respect and value and commit even harder when they see that. At least I've seen that in my work. Yeah.
Well, I agree, and it is a daily conversation I have with myself about how we continue that journey. So you mentioned us, and we're one of your favorite projects, and I really appreciate that. And I'll tell you, in our house, our favorite project of yours is Dan's Eyes and Dairy.
Yes.
And I think hopefully everybody knows them. We are one of their biggest chocolate milk customers. But that's not a large business necessarily. That is a small to mid-sized business that now all of a sudden has probably a much bigger footprint. Tell us about that story. To me, it's just fascinating.
Yeah, Kevin Dan's Eisen, a good friend, great client, came to our offices. Actually, we went to him. He called us up and said, I see the long term of what we need to do, and I've got to change. I've got to diversify my business in new ways. And so it's like, I'm thinking about doing glass bottle, thinking about just getting it faster to the grocery shelf, and I want to do it right. So I want to research this, and I want to build the right brand. And at the core of what they really want to do too is just get back to great tasting milk, and they were so committed to that from the beginning. So we met with them on the farm.
Is that right?
Yeah, on the farm out
Levine. Yep.
And just saw the whole operation and talked to them, and they're like, look, we're about running this farm, but we want to get our product out there more and bring back that old fashioned glass bottle milk. And it's a family business, and everybody in that team is just so committed to great product and making a great product that it makes the marketing so much easier and fun. And so every chance we get to launch a new milk product, as they've expanded, they've got everything. You buy chocolate, but they have almost a lot of flavors. They have their Arizona orange is a little nod to the citrus world of Arizona, but they have orange juice too. They have lemonades. We've helped them launch now into Texas. So there's now a new brand that they launched in Texas that's local to Texas called 1836 Farms. It really go back to that word authentic again, came back to just caring about the product. They talk about, we care about the cows, and the cows take care of us. We take care of the cows, and that produces the great product of Dan's Eisen. And so it's been multiple years now, and ongoing expansion and growth. And it's a great love story of the love of a product and love of a family wanting to give back to the community and do something different in how they were, delivering their pride and joy.
Well, interesting that they're not a multi-billion-dollar business. They're a small Arizona business that said, we think there's opportunity and we'd like your help to help us grow that market. And all of a sudden now they're in Texas.
Yeah. And a lot of that came to small steps. It was just small strategic steps along the way, and doing the right things at the right time to get a little bit more distribution, to get the story out there, to turn on the PR levers when it needed to be on there. They partnered with a lot of the sports teams at the right, and had some sports marketing tie-ins, and then that established their footprint. So just slow, steady, smart, strategic, and tribute that largely to Jeff and Kevin and the whole team over there that are just wonderful to work with and great business partners, great collaborators.
Well, it's great to see them growing and even out of state. Now, I've heard a rumor, and you tell me if it's true or not, that they actually do delivery now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got my delivery this morning. So talk about pivot with intention. Yeah. Pandemic hit, and Kevin called me. He's like, this is going to transform everything again. We're going to have to rethink everything. And so I think we need to bring this product direct to home. So you can get delivered. I get once a week, and I get my chocolate milk. I get my lemonade. I get my orange juice, all home delivered. So it's a great service.
So you use it, put it out, they pick it up, and you eat new stuff.
Yeah. And wow. Then the bottles just recycle back in, which
is great.
And they credit you. So my kids used to be motivated to go turn in the bottles to get that $2 deposit back, and that was like their motivator to get a little extra allowance. But they're all teenagers now, so they're not doing as much as they used to. Even though it's gas money. So it's a nice little convenience thing too, that just recycles back in.
Funny, my son was the same way, and it's gas money, and I have a ton in my garage.
They start piling up. So
yeah, and then I took him and got the money, and he couldn't believe it.
He's like, wait, that's my gas money.
Yeah. Like, no, it's not.
You got to do your part to earn it.
Absolutely. So the other part of our relationship, obviously, is you were a member of the board for 6 years, and you've been incredibly involved in the chamber beyond the board. But certainly that is a lot of service and a lot of commitment. Talk to us about why that service or service to you generally is important.
It goes back to that purpose of giving. But in the case of the chamber, we were very fortunate very early in our business. We were, I think, in our 5th year of business. We got nominated for the Impact Award. And we thought, we did the phrase of it's just an honor to be in the room and an honor to be considered. And then we ended up taking one of the top awards that day. Yeah. And we were honestly, sincerely were shocked that we would even be considered. And we went and celebrated with our team that day. And it was like, we're going to give back to this organization because this is like a great opportunity for us, and so what are we going to do to give back to this community for being recognized? And so that was where it started from, and just slowly have always maintained that. So I think if you want to really impact change, or you want to be part of change in a community, you have to be part of the conversation. You have to sit down and hear what's going on, know where to put your voice forward. And the chamber is all about being a catalyst for change and a contributor to growth. If you sit back, you're missing opportunity. And I've got great business connections, but even more importantly, great relationships, friendships. Just when I get to see you walking, down the hallway of the chamber or in a restaurant, it's like you feel you're part of a community, and you get that over and over again because of that connection, not just by being on the board, but going to your events, being at the Impact Awards, seeing who's being celebrated, the Athena Awards, and the incredible women leaders that we have in this state, and celebrating them, and then seeing them go on and making an impact. I love all of that, and I think that's opportunity that is there for everybody in our business community. That's the great thing about Phoenix, is there aren't barriers to participation, or everybody is welcome. It's open for everybody, and it's all about what you put in, and you get so much more out of it. So I'm very honored to be part of that.
Well, I appreciate that. And the observation in Phoenix, I think, is a good one. People talk about this as a good place to be new because
Absolutely.
people are willing to bring you in and have you participate. And I think that's a good segue because you also were very involved in our diversity, equity, and inclusion work as part of a toolkit that we offer at the Chamber. Just broadly, DEI, why is it important? Why should we be thinking about it?
And it goes back to culture. Part of the reason I started participating is, I think some of the events that happened in 2020 and the ongoing conversations around being authentic and truly championing others and being inclusive of others was something that was brought to my attention as like, hey, we need to do more in our organization around this, Matt. And what are you going to do about it? And so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go step out. I'm gonna actually get out of my comfort zone and go and listen and participate in these conversations so I can just learn and grow from it. So I'm part of that group, but I'm there mostly to observe and learn and then champion and find opportunity to further the voices of those that are really trying to make a difference. And the toolkit is a phenomenal, piece of content that you can just really dive into and choose, okay, this is where we're at and this is how I want to move it forward. If you're starting from ground zero, or if you're like, hey, I've been doing this for a while, but I want to be more intentional about it. There's so many different ways to use those materials. And so that's why it goes back to culture authenticity again of why we've been participating. It's it's the right thing to do, and it's also what others are expecting us to do in today's environment with employee relations and advocating for those that need that voice or need those opportunities. We can't say we're truly about inclusiveness and being abundant for everyone unless you really, really are listening and bringing everybody to the table in that way.
You bet. Absolutely. And I think what I like about that particular project is usually at the Chamber, the staff have a lot of work and a big part of the work and are very involved. In this case, it was 6 months of board leadership that put this together. And I think it really speaks to the importance to the community. And now, not only do we use it here, but we've actually given this away to chambers around the country, and they're using it and giving it away. That's my only stipulation. You can't sell it, and you have to give it away.
It's an open source code. It's
absolutely, and so that lives on. And so I really appreciate that. Let's bring it back to Ideas Collide as we wrap. Talk to us 3 big wins for 2022 for Ideas Collide, and what can we expect now in 23?
Wow, 3 big wins. We talked a lot about our local work,
yes,
but we truly are a national and global agency. So we did some incredible work nationally and globally for some really big brands. I'm really proud of that. We added Weight Watchers to our roster, so we're doing work with Weight Watchers now. Some e-commerce campaigns for them digitally, which are a lot of fun and engaging. Did some national TV work for Best Western Hotels and Resorts.
Homegrown company.
Yeah,
Arizona
also
company.
Based here, but do it at a national North America level and work with them globally as well. So I'm really proud of that. Expanding a local company like Dan Zeiss into Texas, a lot of fun. Did some great things with them and the 1836 farm brand. Last year we called it our rebound year. Post COVID, I think our team really exceeded all expectations. So I think despite so rebound year. Now we're going into 2023, and I think like you just said, talked about. People are just trying to see what does this year look like and how does it shape up. And so I'm using the word confident a lot, is that I think we got to be going forward confident. Like inflation, we've been living in inflation and we've seen our clients impacted by inflation. I got a lot of food clients that are impacted and hospitality brands that are impacted. And we're being resilient with them, and we're adapting and being agile with them. So we're going forward with confidence. We may be in a recession right now. So how are we going to be proactive, smart, and resilient in this time? Because I think we're going to be no matter what it is, the current market is going to be always dynamic and changing. And great businesses thrive when they can adapt and be agile to the market conditions. And so that's what we're really poising ourselves for is moving forward with confidence and strong in our belief that brand matters, and doing the right thing and investing in the right things at the right time matter, and bring the growth and success you need even in hard times.
Well, I love the idea of moving forward with confidence. Makes sense. And especially your thoughts about the market. There is no static market.
No.
It just doesn't live that way. And so I guess for us, the good news is that while it's a little uncertain today, it's not going to be forever. And we're going to move out, and we're going to need to pivot. So thank you for spending so much time with us. Really appreciate it. We're gonna finish up with a quick lightning round.
Oh, I love these. You're good at these, Todd.
Well, we'll see. All right, first job. The paid job.
Paid job. Okay.
Yes.
Bagger in the grocery store.
All right. What'd you learn?
Learned how to run really fast.
Really?
Yeah. It was also in the era of MC Hammer. I don't know if you've told you this story before. And so they called me MC Bagger. It was really bad, but they would page me on the thing, and I have to run fast to be like, hey, we need you over here, MC Bagger. So yeah.
That's awesome. I like it. Wait, so
speedy and responsive.
So what was the unpaid job then? Go ahead.
Oh, so my entrepreneurial spirit was like, I came up with a lot of things. So I told you at the beginning, I like to build things.
Yep.
So I was known in my household to find ways to create my own income. So I would often I did this thing where I took all the materials in my parents' garage, and I tried to create a neighbor's swap of garage tools, and they would pay me a small fee for it. So I was trying to innovate in a way
with your dad's tools.
With my dad's tools,
Okay.
But I don't think the neighbors or my dad appreciated it. I thought I was being really smart and innovative, like trying to increase my allowance. So I did a lot of that as a kid, like always trying to find, okay, I need more materials. I need this. I need to go do this. I want to go to this movie, and the allowance didn't cut it. So I had to create some storytelling and some entrepreneurial spirit to make it happen.
The sharing economy before the sharing economy.
Yeah,
I like it. So, and obviously this is a phenomenal job, but dream job.
Dream job.
Yes.
I mean, for me, it would be, it goes back to storytelling. So my dream job, and I do this day in, day out, but it's creating, great stories. If my dream job would be just to be able to go up to a cabin and write and write things that, could be produced, whether it's, a TV series or a book, that would be the dream job.
So you have a book
without pressure. Just
do you think you have a book in you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So TBD.
Yeah.
And final question, Twitter, LinkedIn, or TikTok?
I love all of them, but I'm a LinkedIn person because I think it's most relevant to our world and business. But I have gotten sucked into many hours with my kids on TikTok. Hate to admit it, but there's a reason it's an addictive little tool there. It's very entertaining. So
absolutely.
But from a pragmatic standpoint, LinkedIn.
And from a bonus content here, is Twitter going to make it?
I'm very skeptical of that. I would love to. I think it's a very utilitarian, important tool. So it remains to be seen. I think an entity of it will, but I think in a current state, I think it's poised for too much disruption, and there's not enough trust in it in the industry, especially from a media and advertising standpoint. There's not a lot of trust right now out there. So I think they've got a big climb ahead.
Okay. Well, on that bombshell, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Matt, for spending so much time with us, but also thank you for everything you're doing with not only the chamber, but our community.
Thank you, Todd. It's been great talking.
All right.